Welcome. Today we're going to break down the incredible technology and just the pure creativity that goes into making the movies you watch and the music you hear every single day.
Exactly. We're going to track how sound and sight evolved from, ancient tools all the way to the huge global industries we have now.
Hmm.
We'll focus on the key facts you need to really get how these worlds are built.
Okay, let's get into it. To talk about recorded entertainment, we have to start with sound itself. And I mean, let's go way back, thousands of years.
We're talking bone flutes and drums. That's really the starting point, used by early humans.
And from there, the journey is, well, it's pretty fast. By Middle Ages, music is mostly religious chants. Very simple stuff.
Right, but then things get more complex. The Renaissance hits, and suddenly you have composers writing these complex harmonies for multiple voices at once.
And then you get the Baroque period with people like Bach creating these incredibly intricate musical structures. They basically defined classical music.
And what's so fascinating is that those structures became the rules. And for centuries, composers just played with those rules. In the 19th century, the Romantic era, it all shifted from precision to just pure emotion.
Bigger feelings.
Exactly. Bigger feelings needed bigger tools,
Yeah.
so the symphony orchestra just exploded in size. You needed more power, more brass, more everything.
But all that music was still trapped in the concert hall. If you wanted to hear it, you had to physically be there.
hmm Which is why the invention of the phonograph in 1877 is, you could argue, it's the single most important moment in music history.
It really was a game changer.
It wasn't just a new gadget, it made music democratic. Before then, music just vanished the second it was played. The phonograph made sound permanent,
hmm
portable.
So anyone, not just the wealthy, could listen to an opera or the latest hit right in their own living room.
And that changed who music was made for. It's what led to the explosion of popular music in the 20th century. Jazz, blues, rock and roll. All of it was boosted by this ability to record and sell music by specific artists.
Right, it created the whole idea of a pop star.
And that trend just continues. Today, artists use computers, synthesizers. They create sounds that couldn't even exist in the real world. A song made in a bedroom can influence fashion on the other side of the world in, like, a week.
And that idea of global influence runs right alongside the story of film. So let's talk about that. How did we first capture a moving picture?
It started late in the 19th century. You had these little devices like the kinetoscope. They were basically personal movie boxes. One person at a time would look through a peephole.
So not a group experience.
Not at all. That big shift came in 1895 with the Lumiere brothers in Paris. They held the first ever public film screening that people actually paid to see.
And these were super short films, right? Just showing everyday things.
Yep. The most famous one is of a train pulling into a station. The story goes that people in the audience literally screamed and ran because they thought a real train was coming at them.
Huh, I don't know if I believe that, but it shows you how powerful it must have been.
It does. And what's so important to remember is that for the next 30 years or so, these were silent movies. The technology to sync sound with the film it wasn't there yet.
So that puts a huge limit on what you can do.
A massive one. Actors had to be masters of body language. Everything was exaggerated, their faces, their movements, because that was the only way to show what they were feeling.
But they still needed people to say things. You need dialogue, so how did they solve that?
They used text on screen, little slides called intertitles. They just pop up to show what a character was saying or to explain that the story was jumping forward in time.
And you always had live music in the theater, right, to fill the silence.
Always. It might be a single piano player or even a full orchestra playing music to match the mood on screen. Every single showing was a unique live performance.
Until 1927, the first talkie.
A jazz singer. And once sound arrived, the entire way movies were made had to change. And the person in charge of all that change is the director.
The director is the creative heart of the film. They take the script and decide what the movie is going to look and feel like. They're in charge of the whole vision.
And that means they have to work very, very closely with the cinematographer.
The director of photography or DP?
Exactly. The director might say, I want this scene to feel tense. And the cinematographer is the one who figures out how to do that with camera angles, lenses, and lighting. They're literally the eyes of the movie.
So they film all these different shots, all these angles,
Yeah.
but the movie isn't a movie yet. That's where the editor comes in.
Yes. Film editing is where you take maybe hundreds of hours of footage and you carve a story out of it.
You select the best takes, you trim them, you put them in order.
And it's so much more than that. The editor has to make sure everything flows. If a character is holding a cup in a wide shot, They had to be holding it in the close-up. That's called continuity.
But they also use editing to create feelings, right?
Absolutely. They can use something called a jump cut, a really sudden, jarring edit to make you feel confused or to make a scene feel urgent and chaotic. The whole pace and rhythm of the movie. That's the editor.
Okay, so that's the story part. But what about the things we see on screen that aren't real? We should probably clarify the difference between animation and visual effects.
Good idea. Animation is creating movement from nothing. You take a series of still images, show them really fast, and it tricks your brain into seeing motion.
And in the early days, that meant drawing every single frame by hand on these clear plastic sheets called cells.
A huge amount of work. Now, visual effects, or VFX, are different. VFX are added to live-action movies.
So things that are too dangerous or just plain impossible to film for real.
Exactly. The most common tool is the green screen. You film an actor in front of a bright green wall, and then a computer can digitally remove that green and replace it with anything, an alien planet, the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
And that's also how they do those realistic digital characters now.
A lot of the time, yeah. They use motion capture. An actor wears a special suit with all these sensors, and a computer records their movements. Then they apply that movement data to a digital model. It's how you get a computer-generated character with a really human performance.
Okay, we've covered the visuals. Let's circle back to sound, the science of it. It all starts with one thing, right? The microphone.
Right. And a microphone is basically a translator. It takes sound waves, vibrations in the air, and converts them into electrical signals.
How does it do that?
Well, inside the mic, there's a thin little membrane. When sound hits it, it vibrates. And that movement creates a tiny electric current that perfectly matches the pattern of the sound wave.
And I know there are different kinds of microphones for different jobs.
There are. The two main ones are dynamic and condenser. Dynamic mics are tough. They can handle really loud sounds, so they're great for things like drum kits or for singers at a live rock concert.
And condensers.
Condenser mics are much more sensitive. They pick up all the tiny details, which is why they're what you find in a recording studio. They're perfect for recording vocals or dialogue.
So on a film set, they need that sensitivity, but they have to hide the mic from the camera. That sounds tricky.
It's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
The person in charge of that is the production sound mixer. You've probably seen them holding those long poles, right?
The booms.
The booms.
Yeah.
They're trying to get that microphone as close to the actors' mouths as possible without it ever dipping down into the shot.
But even then, sometimes the audio you record on set just isn't good enough. A plane flies over or the room is too echoey.
All the time.
Yeah.
So they fix it later. The process is called ADR, which stands for Automated Dialogue Replacement.
Wait, what does that mean?
It means the actors have to go back into a quiet studio, watch the scenes they filmed, and re-record all of their lines to match their own mouth movements on screen.
Wow. That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. But it's the only way to guarantee perfectly clean dialogue. And once you have that clean dialogue, the world of the film still sounds kind of empty.
Which is where the sound designer comes in.
The sound designer adds all the other layers of reality. The footsteps, the sound of clothes rustling, a key turning in a lock. Most of those sounds are added in later to make the world feel real and lived in.
It's like they're building the world with sound.
They are. And they have to carefully balance everything so you can always hear the actors' voices clearly, even during a huge action sequence.
That idea of balancing and structure brings us right back to music. To really understand a film score or a song, we have to touch on a little music theory.
We do. And the basics are actually pretty simple. The smallest building block is a note. It's just a sound with a specific pitch and length.
And when you string a bunch of notes together, you get a melody.
Exactly. The notes in a melody usually come from a scale, which is like the alphabet for that piece of music. But music also needs momentum. It needs a pulse.
That's rhythm.
That's rhythm. The pattern of sounds and silences. It's what makes you want to tap your foot. But the thing that really gives music its emotion is harmony.
Harmony is when you play multiple notes at the same time.
Yes. 3 or more notes played together is called a chord. And chords send immediate emotional signals. We hear a major chord, and it generally sounds happy or stable. We hear a minor chord, and it sounds sad or tense.
So composers are basically using chords to tell you how to feel.
They are literally structuring your emotions. And when you take all those building blocks and give them to a huge group of musicians, you get a modern orchestra.
Which is organized into 4 main instrument families.
Right. The biggest is the string section. Violins, cellos, basses. They usually carry the main melodies and the big emotional themes.
Then you have the woodwinds, flutes, clarinets. They add different colors and textures.
The brass section, trumpets, trombones, that's your power. They're for heroic moments, for drama. And finally, you have percussion, the drums, cymbals. They provide the rhythmic backbone in those big cinematic hits.
And who keeps all of those musicians playing together?
That's the job of the conductor. They stand at the front and use a little stick called a baton, not just to keep time, but to shape the performance, telling everyone when to play louder or softer or faster.
Okay, so we have the technology, we have the theory. But how does all this work as a business? How do we organize it all?
For music, we mostly use genres. They're just categories to help us sort styles. Pop music has catchy melodies and is designed for a huge audience. Rock is built around electric guitars and a lot of energy.
And hip hop.
Hip-hop is all about rhythmic speech rapping over a beat. And then you have something like jazz, which is totally unique.
Because of improvisation.
Exactly.
Mm.
Jazz musicians are often making up their melodies on the spot. It's a really spontaneous art form.
And in the film world, the business is historically centered in one place, Hollywood. The major studios there spend, hundreds of millions of dollars on a single movie.
And the person who has to find all that money is the producer. They manage the budget, hire the crew, and basically make sure the movie actually gets made.
Once it's done, the marketing department takes over. They create the trailers and posters to get you excited to see it. And success is all about the box office.
Right. How much money it makes, especially on its opening weekend. But that's not just in one country anymore. International distribution is everything. A big blockbuster can make way more money overseas than it does at home.
And the biggest change to both of these industries has been digital streaming.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
You don't buy a CD or a DVD anymore. You pay a monthly fee for access to, well, almost everything ever made.
And the platform's algorithm decides what you see.
It does. It
Okay.
looks at what you watch and suggests other things you might like. What's so interesting about that is it gives independent artists a way to find a global audience without needing a giant corporation behind them. It's shaking up the whole system.
Wow. We've gone from bone flutes and shadows on a wall all the way to global streaming algorithms and motion capture. The complexity is it's staggering.
It really is. I think the one thing to leave you with is this. The next time you're watching a movie or listening to a song, just remember that every single second of it, from the biggest explosion to the quietest note, is the result of hundreds of people making thousands of tiny, technical, and creative decisions, all designed to make you feel something.
See you next time. Good luck with your studies.